All right, so let's go ahead and begin with holding hands. And I'll have
arms.
Thank you.
Yes, I can.
And I'll begin with affirmative prayer and declaration if you join me in this intentionality. That Mother, Father, God, we are grateful and thankful for this gathering, that there's been no other gathering like this, that this gathering of people, this gathering of these energies and these beings, that there'll be no other gathering just like this one. And that this gathering has been called together way before we even arrived here, that our souls arrived before we were here. And so we declare this gathering and this sharing that is going to happen of Spirit's message, we declare it good, and we know it to be good, and that it will be for the greatest good of myself and all those that are here. We ask that the Earth Mother, we ask that the angels, we ask that the divinity of each of your being be full participants in this message today, and that what is spoken through me, as me, and in me, awaken, ignite, and enlighten all parts of our being so that we can be of greater service to the planet. Amen. Otep. And so it is. So I was going to speak on tonight on being ourselves is enough. And I first want to talk about why we think being ourselves is not enough. And of course I placed the book somewhere. It was a... Okay, well...
Is it all over this?
Wasn't meant to have it. It's okay. So the book, it was by Emmett Fox, and it talked about how the things that we do that are self-sabotaging, the things that we know are going to change our lives, are going to love ourselves, but we don't do it. We don't drink the extra water in the day. We decide to analyze and figure everything out from the top to the bottom, knowing somehow that's going to not solve it, but we do it anyways. We stay on the computer too long. We get the intuition of what that soul's calling is, but we decide to go ahead and ignore it for a few days or a few weeks. Or we, you can just popcorn it out. We all got these, right? We know, it's like all these things that we get hits on and guidance on that's going to call us forward into more of ourselves, but we don't do it. And I feel the reason that we don't do it is because the mind that is separate from God is called the ego. It wants to kill you. It's, as the Course in Miracles will say, it's suspicious at best and vicious at worst. So the first question I get in sessions, and doing now over close to 30,000 session hours, is, why am I doing that? And I said, well, you can keep on asking why. Why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I getting in my way? And you could read tons of books about the why, but you're not going to find the health and the cancer. You're not going to find the solution in the problem, which is Freudian-based psychology. Let's sit here and analyze our behaviors and our patterns, and let's analyze them till we have them so test tube organized that we know what their color is, what their taste is, we know where it goes back to, we know it's the origin, and we know not only that, we know it's we know what color toes it has, or whatever. You get the idea. And so more of a positive psychology or transpersonal psychology, which is my approach, is that it's about loving and accepting all parts of ourself. But that, and many times the ego mind, which is going to convince us that that's not only selfish, but that's weak. Because fundamentally, we don't think self-love or being ourselves is enough. We don't. We hear that we hear about self-love, and it's like, oh yeah, that's nice. I did something kind for myself, or I said, this positive thing. But loving yourself is actually a really powerful warrior's courage to do so, because essentially, what most minds want to do is we want to mentally will things to happen, which can work. You can get all sorts of goodies in life by mentally willing things, and you can even influence those around you by mentally willing things. But to love and accept all parts of yourself, that means you have to surrender the mental agenda that's been placed there. That means you have to have a faith that goes beyond the external, but to embrace the very thing you think is going to kill you. To love the very thing that you are, because it's like your mom, it's like your dad, it's the very thing you don't want to. Your ego mind's going to convince you somehow your pain is special, but it's not. We all hate ourselves. We all have fear. We all have insecurities, and we're all magnificent, and we're all amazing, and we all have gifts. and we all have intuition, and we all have angels. And so being ourself enough means self-love is enough. And to really, that self-acceptance is really the doorway into feeling an embodied God. It was, I was shattered open in my early 20s when my hero and mentor and spiritual director said I was going to hell because he's a fundamentalist. I was 22, he was my hero, he was my mentor. So I believed him, right? And so thank God that happened though, because everything in our life is trying to show us our brilliance, even the bad stuff. That's why when you hear somebody say, life is fundamentally good, you're having a shitty day or a shitty year, you're like, I just want to slap that person. But to be able to witness the darkness or the suffering in our heart and to love it, to love the suffering, then we begin to see the harmony in the world in the suffering. See, you can't be like Gandhi, be able to see the suffering in the world if you haven't seen your own pain and loved it. And continue to do that the rest of your life. This is spirituality, unfortunately, there's too many, transform your life in 4 days. Because, and that, I think that's cruel, because spirituality is really a muscle you flex every day, like meditation, like Mary Beth was talking about. You don't just work out once and then you're done. Every day you sit still and you witness your crazy mind. And don't try to quiet your mind. And if you try to quiet your mind, that means get a lobotomy. Because your mind's a muscle. It's going to keep on thinking. And so to be able to be, I describe it like being in the self-acceptance process, like a wise grandfather or grandmother on the hill, watching the mind, body, and emotion play. And so if they play war, so what? If they play this, so what? Right? So and that's, again, a practice. Because when we have non-judgmental, non-reactive awareness, that heals. Awareness heals. But if you want to practice that, the same thing of being a beneficial presence to the planet, that your self-acceptance helps me, your self-acceptance helps me, your self-acceptance helps me. I need you to love and accept yourself for my own completion. Because we are sovereign and interdependent. We are autonomous and we are one. You are each an individuated expression of God, unique in your own unique pattern. But at the same time, we're one. That's, right? Like Mary Beth talked about, that people had their same soul signature when they passed. That we keep our soul signature, and yet we're one with this beautiful cosmos, this glorious life. And so to know that being yourself is enough means that self-love is enough. That my inner work, I had a client just last night. She's an amazing healer and chiropractor. She came in and she says, you know, Blue Cross hasn't sent me my money. The settlement I was supposed to get from 10, 20, 15 years ago hasn't come in. And I'm also not getting, and I need to have this particular thing happen in my home because I'm not in a healthy situation. I need to get out. So these 3 things are stuck in my life. And that's where I was talking about using my psychic abilities or intuitive abilities to help somebody. I looked at her, and it's what I do in session, it's what I do in retreats, is I just go ahead and leapfrog to the answer. And I looked at her and I said, if you're not having money move in your life, it's because you're not moving here. Because money is energy. And she looked and she stepped back and she goes, you're right, I'm depressed. Welcome, welcome. And she said, you're right, I'm depressed. There's some sadness here. And I said, okay, if we can, it's not about theorizing the sadness, right? It's not placing a happy face sticker on the engine light. Because that's what, again, the mental will wants to do. It's that to rise above something, you must go through it. That's self-acceptance. And you can theorize it or talk about it forever, but to really let yourself be as you are and know that is enough, and to put that into practice. So when I said that to her, we went upstairs and she had this release, and she said, I was afraid to grieve the loss of this relationship and the loss of my home, and I was feeling like I'll never love again. And I said, sweet one, remember, whatever you're doing in this moment predicts your future. That your fear is not in the future. And so she was afraid that if she was to grieve the loss of this, that's what the mind, there's always an emotion, limiting belief, pattern, and story, SLEP. It's that there's this pain, and then there's a limiting belief, and then there's a pattern and a story. And I write about that in some of my books. But if we can get to the emotion, then it's almost like pulling the weed up by the thing. You can theorize about all this all you want, right? So she got to the emotion. And her mind had created this limiting belief that if she grieved this, she'll never love again. But by letting herself feel that feeling, let herself be as she is, it opened her heart. Well, I get this text from her this morning. And she says, well, out of the blue, the person called and this thing that was I needed done at my home so I could move happened. And even though I've been calling them multiple times for the last 3 months, Blue Cross called me and they're going to be paying me the $8,000. Thank you. And the settlement from 15 years ago happened. And that's because if something's not moving in your life, it's not out here you got to make it happen. It's here. See, again, our mind change external conditions. We want to will things. And it takes a warrior's heart to love yourself. To really be with as you are and know that's enough. That being yourself is enough. That loving yourself is the thing that's going to plug you into eternity. Now, you can do all this willing stuff. That's great. If that's what you want to do, great. Keep on doing that. If that's what you want to create in your life. But if you want to move it into more of a peace that surpasses all understanding. If you want to have that synchronicity or intuition, or like I love that you called it luck. I like to think of luck as living under cosmic knowing. And so if you want to do those things that Mary talked about in the presentation, and you can go to Mary Beth's website, but if you want to do that, it's self-love and self-acceptance. And that's a daily practice. It's not something that, oh, once I get over this issue, then life's going to begin. Because that's putting your happiness on the layaway plan. Oh, once I get done with this, then I'm going to start to be happy. Oh, once I get this amount, once I get the lover in my bed and the money in my bank, then I'm going to be happy. But happiness comes from that self-love and that self-acceptance. There's 2 things I'll talk about why we don't think being ourselves is enough. When the Judeo-Christian quote that seek first the kingdom of heaven and all else will be added on to you. That's not out here. That's here. Kingdom of heaven is here in your own heart, in your own being. And you got to ask yourself, what am I still not loving about myself? Or what if in this moment I've still got that shame voices that says, the original sin voice that says, that can kind of go into, oh, this must be a karmic debt I'm paying. I had a client the other day that thought that. Or this bad thing happened in my life, so I must be not thinking positively enough. Or, whereas, oh, wait a minute, what if I looked at everything in my life as here to show me my magnificence? What if it's not about fixing my brokenness or shifting my karma, that even things I think are bad, you're here to show me there'll be good that comes from this. Because I'm loved. I'm enough. I'm not trying to find that enoughness in a lover's eyes. I'm not trying to find that enoughness in how many people I help. I'm not trying to find that enoughness in what people think about me. And so when I know that enoughness, that I am enough, and I stop following the North American mantra that says, not enough time, not enough money, not enough resources, that there is always the answer there right in front of us because it's within us, that we've been given everything already. That just like you can take one cell of your body and make a complete you, you can take one atom of the universe and know a complete universe, that each of you are a complete expression of the cosmos, complete expression of God, Christ, Buddha, here to realize and activate our potential on the planet, and that no one is special, but everyone is divine. It's when you realize that, when you love yourself and you give gifts, you start expressing that in any ways that you can, and that your mind's going to dismiss it. The ego mind does not want to see you flourish. So don't get too entertained by it, right? If it says, yeah, you're stupid, say, oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, you're not good at, oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, you'll never succeed. Good little ego mind. So, don't study your ego mind so much, I would say, because I see too many people being fascinated by their own ego. It's like, instead of studying the ego, flip on the light. Look within and pay attention. Instead of sitting there and analyzing the darkness, say, how can I touch reality without trying to get anything from it? How can I commune with the presence in a way that will bring me through my breath? How can I love all parts of myself with my breath in this moment for 10 minutes a day? How can I begin to ask what wants to emerge through me rather than what's wrong with me? If you took that one thing from today's presentation, what wants to emerge from me versus what's wrong with me? Because we have been conditioned to think that we can find the health in the cancer. We've been conditioned to think if we analyze the problem enough, the problem's going to go away. That's our whole economic system, that's Western medicine. But when we begin to say, there's something that wants to emerge through me, that I'm more than my problems, I'm more than my issues, and that in that knowing I can love and accept all these things I can actively practice being with my fear and loving it. I can actively practice that being myself is enough, that loving myself can change your finances, can change your life, can change your relationships. Just like that client I mentioned last night, I'll give you another example. I had a woman that was, that question that everybody gets in a relationship, is this the right person? And she was married to the guy, and I said, don't worry about that. Just start really being yourself and being open, being not hiding anything back, but at the same time being vulnerable, and everything will figure itself out. And I can't tell you how many times I've guided somebody into that relationship, and it did. It wasn't, it's not the details of trying to figure out the future that changed it for the person. Or how many times I've had people love and accept themselves, and physical illnesses just poof. Just had a woman earlier this week that had a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and she was doing the emotional work, and all the pains went away. And the book that I really love, it's kind of like Louise Hay on steroids. It's Divided Mind. And Divided Mind, it's by John E. Sarno. And he actually identifies as the autonomic neuropeptides that create the illness response in the body. And so he shows that there is actually this peptide that is created in the emotional response that affects the body. And that he says, I love the quote in there that just blew me away. He said, the conscious mind creates illness as a distraction from the emotion. Awesome. And that we can, again, keep on chasing these, but that self-love is enough. And that when we're able to feel that emotion without trying to escape from it, when we know that being right as we are is enough, that can heal the body, that can change the finances. That seek first the kingdom of heaven means know you are enough as you are. And the reason that, I got a few more minutes. The reason that we have these limiting beliefs that think that's not true is a time that we were enough as a child, right? And we were this bright little wee, that even if we had great parents, and I like what Marianne Williamson says, well, get over it, everyone has a wounded childhood. Because, some aspects we do. Everybody is suffering from disassociation. Everyone I meet is not embodied, and I give a whole presentation on what that is, the body intimacy. You'll have to catch that another time. But we all have that disassociation. We're all in our upper chakras and not in our lower energy centers or in the felt sense of our body. So what was I talking about? Mind-body connection. Reason why it wasn't talking about that. Why those limiting beliefs of being yourself is not enough is because when we were a child and our parents were there, you can only witness another to the level you're witnessing yourself, right? So self-awareness means that you're aware of your thoughts and feelings. Not self-aware means you think you are your thoughts and feelings. And we've all had unaware moments. We all have, where we just got carried away with the thought and the feeling, right? And it was like, oh, wait a minute. And you were able to, like even right now, watch your thoughts. You're the awareness behind your thoughts. That's self-awareness. Well, that's advanced. Because unfortunately, about 60, maybe 70% of the population is not self-aware. And so understanding that is that when you came in as a child, your parents couldn't see past their own thoughts and feelings. Because we're all just re-experiencing ourselves if we're not practicing some form of self-love. We're re-experiencing our own hell, really, if we're not self-aware. So as a child, you could feel that. You could feel mom and dad couldn't really see you. So then you created this other self. We all do. And then we have all these other selves that become false self-identities. And then as we love ourselves, that's why loving ourselves is scary, because we got to let go of the false self, or reincorporate it rather. This idea of shed it or get rid of it or pound it away, but more embrace it. Embrace these false selves that just need hugs and need to be felt through the body and not just theorized. The other reason that we think being ourself is not enough is we receive signals that being ourself hurt others. Maybe times that you just shine too bright and were just too intuitive and you scared mom, or times that you were just emotionally vulnerable and open-hearted, and you're not supposed to be that way as a man, and you scared your dad. Or times that you get it. You get the idea that where we got the signal from our parents, oh, being me is not right. Being me is not right. I'm gonna get negative, something bad's gonna happen. I haven't worked with a healer, and I love working with people that, they kind of already know their story, they want to bring their gift to the planet. That I haven't worked with somebody that's wanting to express their gift to the planet that doesn't think they're going to be attacked or killed or something bad's going to happen when they bring their gift forward. And many people have the karmic, I haven't met somebody that doesn't. And they even have some karmic memories that they're going to have their head cut off, or they're going to be killed, and then we can make it very past life and woo-woo, and past life's important. However, if our current life, your everyday ordinary life, is your teacher. Your everyday ordinary life will set up situations for you to awake. And so your everyday ordinary life, if you address that situation, if you embrace it, if you bring that conviction to come forward in life and love yourself, then your everyday ordinary life will give you a situation where you express your truth or your gift, and somebody goes, you feel that signal, right, of like you're bad, or they shame you. Hey, and if you can love yourself through that, you now heal that past life, or you heal that karmic issue. So you don't have to, it's good information to have past life information. I'm not diminishing that in any way, but your everyday ordinary life can be your great teacher. And so I had a client just the other day. He had been doing self-love and self-acceptance work with me, and he had caught the vision for his life. And works as a healer, and he was using it and applying it, but it wasn't moving, and he was getting a lot of conflict in his office. And I said, well, what's happening in the foundation? Because what's happening in your closest relationships? And I can feel something happening with your wife. And I said, there's something here when you share your vision. And he's like, yeah, she keeps on wanting to give her 2 cents. And then every time she does, it's like, I don't care about that stuff. Then she gets hurt, and then, it becomes this big story. And then when I said I'll just call him Kevin, when I said to Kevin that you're getting the signal that being yourself hurts her. And then she's getting scared when she hears your vision because she thinks that means you're going to abandon her. And he went home and he shared that with her, that, sweetie, I feel like I'm hurting you when I share my vision. And it came from that vulnerable place, and then all the conflict left his office. So when he shifted this and he said, I am enough. I can be myself and love myself through that. And he was able to not take on her sphere of his vision. He shifted his vibration. He loved himself. All the conflict in his office shifted. There was conflict between the doctors, there was conflict between the receptionist. It all shifted because he loved himself. He became a beneficial presence through his self-love. Awesome, huh? Yeah. All right, so we have, let's see, anything else I want to say before? Oh, the reason why loving yourself is enough, one more thing, and not that I'm trying to convince you, that the on-ramp of hell is always the off-ramp. And many of you heard me say that. And what I mean is that the thing that got you into the sabotaging behavior, or trying to play mediocre in your life, or not really living at a 10 in your life and showing up, the very thing that got you into that place is going to get you off. And I don't mean that kind of get off. Anyways, had to get a sex joke in here tonight. So that fear that got you into that sabotaging pattern is the very fear that's going to help you move out of it. That your core block is your core power. And that's something, of course, I love to work with people, because I see their core block and I see their soul theme. Something that Mary Beth and I share, that we both see people's soul themes. And your core block is your core power. And that's why the mud, or I like to use the word mud of mindful understanding of your density. When you embrace the darkness, it's the very fertility that can bring you forward. And in the Course in Miracles, it says every emotion comes from the byproduct that you think you're not love, right? So every emotion is a symptom of thinking you're separate from God. God is love. So if every emotion is a symptom of that, again, I'm saying the same thing. That's why loving yourself and embracing yourself as you are, the emotions, returns you back to the awareness that you are love, or you are Christ, or you are God. And that's unfortunate, That if we don't balance the heart work with the head work, we can affirm and will ourselves out of our own self-love. And then we can be walking around this world feeling so empty and so drained and so painful inside, but being told we should be positive and just pray more. That is cruel. So mind is very important. Having a positive focus and will, very important. But when we balance that with self-love and the heart work, then life becomes magical. Because then we feel the sunshine loving us, and we feel our neighbor loving us, and we can feel the earth rising to kiss our feet as we walk. And that's what self-love does. All right, so I'll take a breath. All right, so I'm going to guide you through a short meditation, and then we'll have a share and just see what comes up from there. And I would like actually for you all to partner up, and let's do this meditation together. So if you could just nab a partner, and I will guide it. All right, so you're going to go ahead and look at your partner. And here. All right. And if you're listening, streaming this online, I want you to do this either with a partner or do this with a mirror. All right. And just begin to make eye contact, either with your partner or if you're listening to this online with a mirror. And the moment you look into somebody's eyes, just notice all the emotions and feelings that come up in you, and just be present in your own experience. Now this sounds like simple guidance, everyone. Just don't try to change your experience. But notice how much the mind wants to change things, move things around. Don't make that wrong either. Just be exactly who you are in this moment. Knowing that is enough. Go ahead, and now you're looking at somebody or doing this in the mirror. Close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, just notice your thoughts and your feelings and your body sensations. Body sensations are through your feet, your genitals, your arms. Noticing your feelings, peaceful, fearful, angry. Just notice what comes up. Beautiful, everyone. And still letting your experience be there, not trying to change a thing. Go ahead and open your eyes. Noticing and opening the eyes if that brings up anything different. If your mind then tries to alter or change or hide. That compassionate witnessing of your own stuff, but compassionate witnessing from another can heal anything. Beautiful, everyone. One more time, go ahead and close your eyes and just notice what you notice. Without trying to change it, alter it, or make it better. Notice your breath in your body. Notice your sensations. Be willing in this moment. Be willing to love all parts of you. Your physical sensations, your emotions, your thoughts. Go ahead and open your eyes one last time and just again, be with your experience. Beautiful, everyone. And go ahead and take a deep breath together. Make an ah sound on the out breath. Wonderful, everyone. And go ahead and let's find our seats again. All right. And let's go ahead and share whatever is present or alive. really no guidelines of what to share. We have about 20 minutes, so we have plenty of time for our group. If you're listening to this online, this would be a time that you get your journal out and you just record what's emerging, what's evolving in your life. Also, no, that's enough. All right. So whoever would like to just share what they're present to and allow the group to love them and witness them, or if there's something from the presentation I said that you would like to comment on, or something from Mary Beth's presentation, or whatever. So
I liked how you added in the Course in Miracles, and I've never went through the whole course, but I went through parts of it, and from my own spiritual searching, finding the place, I found Course in Miracles to be most compatible with what I believe in my own spirituality. And I liked, you mentioned the separation, and that was always, to me, is what I read from Course in Miracles, is that what we feel inside, this loneliness, this isolation, that, we had a bruised childhood, and we say, healing your inner child and things like that. And it was always, to me, it's a separation from God. That's what our longing to be, is to go. We're down here in our physical form, and we really want to be up with God. That's, at least that's my interpretation of it. That's sort of the separation we feel, is not, we're isolated in our own bodies, this kind of physical world, and we feel, for me, I feel trapped, and the idea is to be free and go back to where we were before. So I like how you added that in there. So.
Thank you. May I say something else? Yeah. So I love that you say the feeling trapped, and I love the Course in Miracles says if you feel like an alien in this world, you are. That you are a spiritual being having a physical experience. That if you feel like this world is not of you, that's normal. Don't change your name to Astar, and don't that this is normal. That we don't feel like we belong to this world. And then at the same time, there's that paradox when we really embrace and love ourselves and realize that we're not of this world, that everything becomes delicious in this world. That when you begin to see, and really it's a process, right? When you begin to do this inner work and really start the journey of self-love, and when you start to reach the point of non-dual consciousness, which means simultaneous awareness, you're able to witness your emotions but not be hijacked by them, and you're able to maintain that awareness in most parts of your life, that then you begin to you get to experience connections that are heaven on earth. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I think you were saying so much, and like you would say something that would be very poignant for me, and then I'm like thinking about it, trying to see how that's like playing in my life, and then you'd say something else, and then I'd have to get sidetracked, and, so I'm like all over the place because you've said so much. But I've been having this, it's interesting you talked about the ego, because I've been having this sort of conflict where my boyfriend, he did something, and I'll call it like he took me to the edge of hell and back, and then said, "Oh, I was just kidding." And I'm like, "Okay, ass, you're not kidding." And so I, because of my ego, I'm like, well, I'm going to prove how you're an ass by going back through our conversations and our emails. But then I realized what you were saying is like my ego has this need to be validated. And I'm kind of like on this precipice, like, well, do I get validated and say, yes, you're an ass, but how does that help me later? So I'm kind of like this, but now I'm like, all right, I'll just let it go and sweep it under the rug.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
So the first part of your comment that I jumped from how much information I give, I do that intentionally so that you can't overthink things.
I have a horrible problem with
Yeah, and so
I
purposely keep a pace that I do, so you get the download, you get the transmission, and that you're not actually able to overanalyze what I'm saying. So it's actually intentional. The second part is, my suggestion would be, I'd invite you into seeing what yes, choose the miracle over the grievance, absolutely. Yes, and I love that you're taking responsibility for your happiness, wonderful. I have seen, though, women in spirituality do that too much, where they then try to do 100% of the relationship on both sides. So my suggestion would be to be with the trigger, to be with the anger, to process through, I would say 90% of it, where it's like you feel, and then I guide people in session to all feelings are an unmet need, but know that all has already been given to you. All your needs are already met. So if you can identify that need and know the feeling, then when you communicate to him, you're able to say it in a way where you're not trying to jam it down his throat that your need's important. You're not trying to be right. You've taken responsibility for your emotion, but you're still communicating to him what needs to be communicated. And I would, you could either come in for a session or, and we could work through that, or if you just want a resource right now, because I give those away, look up Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and that would be a good start. And so that you can find that middle ground of not trying to, that you are only 100% responsible for 50% of the relationship, and then you're not going to the other extreme where you're trying to take, not going to the other extreme and just screaming and yelling and yeah, you don't want to do either one. You want to go in the middle. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just thought your talk was beautiful because with self-love, your life becomes whole and peaceful and serene.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I loved your repeated message in your presentation of don't think so much or thinking. I did a clearing, I think it was a week and a half or a week ago, and I do this process with people, but I do it with myself where I see how much of other people's energies how much has been in my body, and I do that. And I was doing this clearing of other people's opinions, and I started doing this clearing, and I started seeing this energy pulled off of me, and I'm like, wow, that's like a Texas-sized glob of energy of other people's opinions that I've, yeah.
It's freeing.
Yeah.
It seemed that you were directly talking to me in different parts of it, not anybody else. It's like, are you sometimes drawing from the people in the room? And okay, thought so.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought you were talking to me and nobody else.
Parts. I didn't say the whole thing.
I have to step out, I'll be right back.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
I take it as a compliment.
Is there any way that we could support you?
Oh, I'll just a ride home. Really,
I got the ride covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, was this the accident?
Yeah.
Oh, no accidents. There's no accidents. You don't have to be.
Not so bad.
All right, so unless there's any other questions or shares. Any questions for me or Mary Beth?
I had so many, I can't.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for those that listened. Know that you just gave yourself an incredible gift. And yeah. Yay!